The man who traveled the furthest to get here, Scotty James out of Australia, the 2018 Olympic bronze medalist.
Scotty James, said it a million times, we'll say it again, he is the most technical half-pipe rider that has ever strapped in.
Backside 12 again! Craig has left the booth. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Scotty James continues his dominance in the pipe.
I think I was too young to have reservations about snowboarding. I'm sure my parents definitely did.
He went to school and they were all asked to draw what you wanted to be when you got older, and all of the other kids. There was lots of firemen and doctors, and Scott drew what he called an action sports person. He said that his teacher said, "That's not a job."
Such an outside-the-box thing for an Australian. Typically in Australia, we're going to the beach to go surfing, or going to the 50-metre lap pool to swim, or playing cricket or playing football. All of those sports really appealed to me, but nothing showed the same passion to me as snowboarding.
How do you like the air and style so far?
It's sick.
I do remember my dad coming home from a trip to Canada, and he brought me home my first ever snowboard.
We decided to go and do a tour of some of the ski shops just to fill in some time. One of the shops, I noticed that there was a tiny little board. They were using it as a doorstop. And I said, "Oh, can I buy it?" And he goes, "Yeah, okay, I can." I said, "How much?" He goes, $10. I said, "Okay, I bought it." Gave it to Scott and he started riding. Scott would find every tree, every rock, every bump, every jump, every berm that he could possibly find on the way down. Just go out and play. As a little kid, really never did a normal run. It was always out to have fun.
Learned a new trick.
Did ya?
Yeah.
Over the years, I just loved snowboarding, I loved competing. I was fortunate enough to travel over to Canada with my family.
When he started it, we never really thought that it would ever end up a career. We just did it as a family for a bit of fun. The first event that I remember was at Big White, and I think Scott was 9. There were kids from all over Canada.
I came first for 13 and under, and I made it to finals for 13 to 16, so I was pretty happy with.
I was really competing against kids that grew up with snow in their backyards, and it was a very accessible sport to them.
And it was at that point we thought, well, you know, we've come from Australia, we don't really have any snow here as such. You know, maybe something could happen with this. And you know, we used to go back year after year after year, and each time it got better and better and better. So it got to the point where we would go overseas, and he would go in competitions every single year, and he would just start winning. You know, he was beating kids that were sort of 5 or 6 years older than him when he was 9 years old.
Been traveling the world since I was about 13 years old, doing the same world tour every year and on and off back in Australia. My mum would travel around the world with me while my dad was at home working, and I've got 3 other siblings, and he was looking after them, and my mum was, you know, traveling with me. So I was so young at the time, you know, I was a bit naive to what that actually meant to my family to actually do that for me.
He didn't have a normal sports upbringing, like a Saturday morning basketball or Sunday afternoon football or whatever. You know, he was overseas.
Spending a lot of time away from my family and my friends growing up was definitely a challenging task.
Missing his brothers was the biggest thing, and his sister.
Compared to my other competitors, you know, if something goes wrong or they're missing home, you know, it's an hour flight for them. It's a 2-hour car trip, it's an hour drive home. Whereas for me, it's a commitment. It's a 14-hour trip to go home. You got to get the flights, you got to get the equipment, you got to travel the world. Who's going to go with you? Who's your coach? What events are you going to? How long are you going for? Can you do your school? Are you doing homeschool? Are you going to do online education at your school? That's all the things you really have to think about. It's kind of something that I use more so than a negative thing that is where I'm from. It's a way that I'm like, well, it doesn't matter where I'm from, I'm going to prove everyone wrong.
One of his big goals was to go to X Games.
Going out and competing in X Games was one of the most exciting atmospheres that we can really compete in.
Scotty James, a gold medal in 2017, a silver medal in 2018.
He had a crash in the warm-up.
I was riding these new boards too, and they hadn't been breaking, so I was like feeling pretty good on them, and then I broke one in practice.
There was concern about concussion, and really were wondering if he was going to ride or not.
There was a second there where I was just thinking to myself, oh, this is just hopefully progressively not going to get worse.
So there's this just craziness happening that we didn't really know what was going on. We just knew there was a lot of drama around what was happening with Scotty.
Having the family there, all of us at the one event also adds a bit of pressure as well, which I'm sure he didn't show it at the time, but he probably in the back of his mind, I need to do well because mum and dad are here.
I stopped trying to control the uncontrollable. The clock had run out, I couldn't train anymore. There was nothing that I could really do about it other than just make sure that I was ready to go when the time came.
Wow! Switchback 10. Uncharacteristic fall right out the gate from Scotty James.
I crashed my first run, and that wasn't very pleasant.
He's got the boxing gloves on. He's been on one. He's hyper-focused, and he's as progressive as they get in the pipe. Scotty James trying to put that run in we all expect from him here in attempt number 2.
Okay, switch backside 1080. And he goes backside 12 here, which he attempts and stops. Okay, those are two absolutely mind-melting tricks.
Got it done in the second run, and I claimed the gold, so it's exciting.
His second X Games gold medal.
We were just over the moon, couldn't believe it. I think we were all just grabbing each other and jumping up and down because it's not what we expected to have happened.
Just that feeling and feeling all that pressure and being able to handle that, I think for me was like a real accomplishment.
What a moment for Scotty James.
Doesn't that warm your heart?
We always knew this was going to be his journey, and it would have been a battle for us to not allow this to happen. I don't think we ever really thought not to support it. We've just enjoyed watching it.
It was almost destiny, I guess, to a certain point. As long as he kept the passion, he was always going to end up being the best.
We persisted through maybe the negative things that came our way. For me, I was always one foot in front of the other, and I think my parents were always in the same position, and I saw how much I loved doing it. For us, reservations were just a way to learn and just take another step in the right direction to make sure that I could do what I always wanted to do, which was be a professional snowboarder.